Namaskar. Namaskar. Little bit. Let us begin with a prayer. Om Tava Kathamritam Taptajivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Grananti Te Bhurida Jana. Om, your words are like nectar, bringing life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Let us study this chapter 4, Advice to Householders. This is on page 111 of the English Gospel. In the Bengali edition, it is page 69. Yeah, 69. ठाकुर श्री रामकृष्ण दक्षिणेश्वरे वीरेंद्रादि भक्त संगे और अन्य भक्त संगे प्रथम परिच्छेद. This is on page 59. प्रथम परिच्छेद. Yes. Anybody? Advice to householders. August 13, 1892, the master was conversing with Kedar and some other devotees in his room in the temple garden. Kedar was a government official and had spent several years at Dhaka in East Bengal, where he had become a friend of Vijay Goswami. The two would spend a great part of their time together talking about Sri Ramakrishna and his spiritual experiences. Kedar had once been a member of the Brahma Samaj. He followed the path of bhakti. Spiritual talk always brought tears to his eyes. If a person has pure devotion, when such a person hears the name of God, three things will happen. Sri Ramakrishna said early in the Gospel on the first page. Upon hearing the name of Hari, if a person sheds tears of devotion, the hair stands on end and the voice chokes, then you know that he knows God. He has devotion to God, pure devotion to God. So Kedar was like that. Spiritual talk always brought tears to his eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Kedar was very happy that day, having arranged a religious festival for Sri Ramakrishna. The singer had been hired by Ram, and the whole day passed in joy. The master explained to the devotees the secret of communion with God. Very often in the gospel we see devotees ask the question, what is the way to know God? Upai ki, that question comes. So here the master Sri Ramakrishna explains, with the realization of Satchidananda, one goes into samadhi. Then duties drop away. Suppose I have been talking about the Ostad and arrives. Ustad is a Urdu word. It's a teacher of music. Ustad. I have been, suppose I have been talking about the Ustad and he arrives. What need is there of talking about him then? How long does the bee buzz around? So long as it is not sitting on a flower. But it will not do for the sadhaka to renounce duties. He should perform his duties such as worship, japa, meditation, prayer, and pilgrimage. One cannot or should not stop doing one's duty because thinking that I am practicing devotion to God, so I don't have to do any work, that won't work. When pure devotion comes, or self knowledge comes, duties drop away by themselves. It's not for us to give up duties. They will themselves become fewer and fewer, and only very few duties will remain. Even jnanis, brahmajnanis, devotee have to perform some duty, at least they have to take care of their body. So for that, some work is necessary. So in the Gita, Bhagavan says, no one can remain without performing any work, even for a short time. Some work will be going on in our body, mind. If we don't do any work, even the maintaining of the body will become impossible. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddheda karmana. Chapter 3, Bhagavan says. So duty will remain, but most of the work will drop away gradually as one progresses in spiritual life. We should not voluntarily give up duty. That's the one message that Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes repeatedly in the Gita. Do your duty, do your duty. Niyatam kuram karmatvam. Perform your obligatory duties. Karmajjayo yakarmanaha. Performing duties is better than failing to do one's duty. So Sri Ramakrishna says the same thing. It will not do for the sadhaka to renounce duties. He should perform his duties such as worship, japa, meditation, prayer, and pilgrimage. Yajna, dana, tapa. In the Gita, Bhagavan says, three things never be given up. What are they? Yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna means sacrifice, performing all work as offering. All work becomes yajna when it is done in the spirit of offering, not for selfish reasons. Dana, charity, has to be done, a part of life. Why we should do dana, charity? Because every moment in our life we receive so many things from nature and other people. Countless number of people are working this moment to make us possible to be here to do this class. So many people who grow the food that we eat, maybe in some other country, and the people who make it possible for us to get that food in our kitchen from the place where it grows somewhere. So many chain of activities happens so much. Those people, utility people who are making it possible for us to, if you count, countless number of people are working. So we are receiving from nature also. Round the clock, we receive so many things from nature: air that we breathe, food that we eat, the oxygen that trees give, so we can live, sustain life. So in return, what do we do? We have to do charity. So that is essential part of life. Yajna dana. Tapaha means austerities. Several three kinds of austerities we have seen. Austerities pertaining to the body, shariram tapaha. Austerities pertain to speech, vagmayam tapaha. And austerities pertaining to mind, keeping the mind pure and clean and calm. Manasam tapaha. So they have to be done by everyone. Three things: yajna, dana, tapa, karma. Natyajam. You should never be given up. Karyameva. They have to be a repeated emphasis in the Gita, chapter 18, sloka 5 and 6. Then he says, Sri Ramakrishna says, he should perform his duties such as worship, japa, meditation, prayer, and pilgrimage. If you see someone engaged in reasoning, even after he has realized God, you may like him to a bee, which also buzzes a little even while sipping honey from a flower. When a person achieves pure devotion, then all speech will stop. No need to speak. Speech will drop away. Other activities will drop away by themselves. Pure devotion. So Narada Maharshi says in his Bhakti Sutras, Mukha Swadhanavat, person enjoys the bliss of pure devotion, but not speaking anything. Like a Mukha means a dumb person. He's very happy, he's enjoying something, some pleasure, but he is not able to speak. That is like that inward ananda, bliss. If you see someone engaged in reasoning, even after he has realized God, you may liken him to a bee which also buzzes a little even while sipping honey from a flower. The master was highly pleased with the Ostad's music. He said to the musician, there is a special manifestation of God's power in a man who has any outstanding gift, such as proficiency in music. This is in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says, wherever there is any manifestation of special power, special ability, excellence, eminence, know that to be the manifestation of my power. In the 10th chapter of the Gita, last but one shloka, 41, there Bhagavan says, whatever excellence is there in any person, yad vibhutimat sattvam srimadurjitameva va tattadevavagachatvam mama tejomsha sambhava. Whatever is there that is excellent, eminent, know that to be a part of my infinite power. Mama tejomsha sambhava. So that is what Sri Ramakrishna is saying here. There is a special manifestation of God's power in a man who has any outstanding gift, such as proficiency in music, any kind of activity, gift, special power. That is indication of God's power in that person. Musician, sir, what is the way to realize God? Same question comes repeatedly. What is the way to realize God? Master, bhakti is the one essential thing. Sri Ramakrishna often emphasized the path of bhakti, devotion. To be sure, God exists in all beings. Who then is a devotee? He whose mind dwells on God. But this is not possible as long as one has egotism and vanity. The water of God's grace cannot collect on the high mound of egotism. It runs down. I am a mere machine. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is emphasizing here one quality of a devotee, among other qualities, humility. No trace of pride. Amanina manadena. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in his instructions. The devotee does not expect respect from anybody for oneself. Instead, a devotee always shows respect for everybody, all beings, seeing divine presence in all beings, showing respect. One day, several people used to pilgrims, travelers, and holy people, yogis used to pass through Dakshineshwar. So one yogi came and stayed there near the Panchavati area for a couple of days. And then he once entered Sri Ramakrishna's room. He wanted some fire to fire his, to light his chillam or something, a short fire. When he entered the room, Sri Ramakrishna stood up, remained standing. Somebody brought something for fire and gave it, and he left. After he left, Sri Ramakrishna sat down. Then someone remarked, Thakur, he's some passing ordinary yogi. So many people come and go here. You stood up when he came. You remained standing when he was here. Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, you have to show respect to everyone. Humility. Sri Ramakrishna says here, I'm a mere machine. But this is not possible as long as one has egotism and vanity. One must be humble. You can see how humble Sri Ramakrishna was. Once he went to Surendra Mitra's home in Kolkata for satsang. And Surendra Mitra had arranged a very special seat for him, for Sri Ramakrishna to sit down. And he had arranged some bolsters, long cylindrical pillows to recline against. So Sri Ramakrishna was asked to sit down there. He refused. All this special arrangement, not for me. And he says, I'm a mere speck of the dust of a devotee's feet. These are his words. It's on page 210 in the Gospel. It will come later. I'm a mere speck of the dust of a devotee's feet. Humility always. So that's what he's emphasizing here. I'm a mere machine. He would say, Divine Mother is the doer of everything. And foolish people think that they are the doers. But I am a mere machine. I'm a jantro. Tumi jantri. That famous song, Sakali Timaricha, there he says, I'm the machine, you are the operator. I'm a jantro, Timi jantri. He says here, I'm a mere machine. As she makes me do, so I shall do. That was his attitude, humble. To Kedar and the other devotees, God can be realized through all paths. All religions are true. The important thing is to reach the roof. You can reach it by stone stairs, or by wooden stairs, or by bamboo steps, or by a rope. You can also climb up by a bamboo pole. Many different ways to reach one goal, one destination. Different people travel by different routes to reach the same destination. This is one of the main messages of Sri Ramakrishna, harmony of religions. Ordinary people, they are very bigoted. Some people, in all religion, there are such people. They say ours is the only true path. You should worship God the way we do. The way you are worshipping God is not good. You change and become follow my path. They are so insistent, and sometimes they become angry when they see somebody worshipping God in some other way. They resort to violence even. That is not good. All paths lead to the same goal. And he said, as there are seekers, as many seekers as there are, so many paths. Swami also said the same thing. Each person can carve out his own unique path to God. Because infinite are the ways to God. Not one way. Many ways. Many are the ways. Each person follows whichever is suitable to that person. Depending on our ability, our propensity, our tendency, our devotion, we can choose the path. This was the message Sri Swamiji gave in his first speech at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. Swamiji quoted, of course, he translated into English A famous stanza from the Shivamamina Stotram, composed by a Gandharva named Pushpadanta. There he said, there are so many different paths to reach the same goal of God realization. Every path is good for the person who follows it. So there need be no quarrel, no fighting on the basis of differences in paths of worshipping God, different ways of worshipping God. So that was the main message. So many times Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes this harmony. The important thing is to reach the roof. God can be realized through all paths. All religions are true. Then you may say that there are many errors and superstitions in another religion. We point out sometimes faults in the other religion. Then they say, my path is better. I should reply, suppose there are. Every religion has errors. Everyone thinks that his watch alone gives the correct time. It is enough to have yearning for God. It is enough to love Him and feel attracted to Him. Don't you know that God is the inner guide? He sees the longing of our heart and the yearning of our soul. Suppose a man has several sons. The older boy addresses him distinctly as Baba or Papa, but the babies can at best call him Ba or Pa. Now, will the father be angry with those who address him in this indistinct way? The father knows that they too are calling him, only they cannot pronounce his name well. All children are the same to the father. Likewise, the devotees call on God alone, though by different names. They call on they call on one person only. God alone is God is one, but his names are many. He elaborates on this message. Many are the ways to reach God. Each person follows the path that is suitable to him or her. The goal is the same. Paths are many. This is the main message in the earliest Rigveda also. In the earliest times, the Vedic sages came to the same conclusion. Not one path, many paths. Destination is one, the paths are many. There is a famous oft quoted sentence from the Rigveda. Ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. Sat ekam. Truth is one. People call it by different names. That was the message that Sri Ramakrishna was giving. The next day, Thursday, August 24, 1882. Not next day, this was August 13. There was a gap of about 10 days. August 24, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Hazra on the long northeast veranda of his room. When M arrived, he saluted the master reverently. Master, I should like to visit Ishwar Chandra Vidya Sagar a few times more. He had visited Ishwar Chandra Vidya Sagar once, and that conversation is given in the separate chapter in the Gospel, and he wanted to visit him a few more times. And he explains the painter first draws the general outlines and then puts in the details and colors at his leisure. The molder first makes the um, image out of clay, then plasters it and gives it a coat of whitewash, and last of all, paints it with a brush. All these steps must be taken successively. Vidyasagar is fully ready, but his inner stuff is covered with a thin layer. Vidyasagar was a very famous philanthropist, educationist, helping a great many people, especially in the field of education. So he was very well known. So Sri Ramakrishna says, he is fully ready, but his inner stuff is covered with a thin layer. He is now engaged in doing good works, but he does not know what is within himself. Gold is hidden within him. God dwells in us, everyone, without exception. This is one thing that comes again and again in the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures. The Lord says, I am present in the hearts of all. But his presence is not equally manifest in all beings. In some, his presence is hidden deep under layers of ignorance. Neither that person knows God's presence within, nor can other people see God's presence in him. Such people. But in other people, his presence is fully manifest. We call them holy people, Mahatmas. If you just go to the presence, the mere ambience of such people who experience God's presence, it's evident. The whole atmosphere is permeated with peace, joy, and spirituality. No word need be spoken, nothing need be done. Their very presence is a gift to the world. Narada says in the Bhakti aphorisms, such people are the gift to the world. Because of them, the world is uh, progressing. They are the salt of the earth, essence. Their presence is a gift to the whole world. Such people. So he is describing God dwells within us. If one knows that, one feels like giving up all activities and praying to God with a yearning soul. As long as you are under the impression you are the body, mind, and not aware of God's presence, not feeling God's presence, so long you are active at the body, mind level, doing all kinds of things, enjoying and suffering. But once a person experiences the divine presence within, then all outward activities become less and less. Fully absorbed, such a person becomes fully absorbed in enjoying the bliss of the self, divine presence. Such people are there, and because of them, the earth is, uh, by them, the earth is upheld. He is now uh, engaged in doing good works. He does not know that what is within him. Now, before that, if one knows that one feels like, if one knows that means God is within us. If you become aware of his God's presence even a little bit, then the whole situation changes. Ordinarily, we are engaged with the outside world. Our sense organs have a tendency to go outside and seek contact with sense objects, hoping that such contact will bring happiness. But a person who experiences a divine presence within, that person knows true happiness comes from the divine presence from within, not from the world outside. The whole situation changes. God dwells within us. If one knows that, one feels like giving up all activities and praying to God with a yearning soul. So the master talked with him. Now standing, now pacing up and down along along the down the long veranda. Master, a little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within. If you are totally engaged in worldly activities and don't sit down and reflect on our nature, who are we, what is happening, then we are engaged in the world. There's no opportunity. We don't take opportunity to think about God or anything. But if a person starts a little reflection on the basic questions of life, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? And the divine presence within me, if such thoughts begin to occur, then the beginning of spiritual life. So Sri Ramakrishna says, little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what is within, divine presence within. Swami says each soul is potentially divine. The divinity is potential in everyone. It is there, but not manifest in everyone. So the main duty, the main purpose of human life is to know our divine nature, to know God, which is present within us. It's present everywhere in the same way, but not equally manifest. That in the Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes this many, many times. Chapter 13, Shloka 27, for example. For instance, Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameshwaram. This passage was quoted by Swamiji in his lecture. Sarveshu Bhuteshu, in all the beings, no exception. Samam Tishtantam Parameshwaram is present equally in all. Yaha Pashyati Sa Pashyati. Vinashyatsu Avinashyantam. The bodies and minds are perishable, vinashi. They come and go, they degenerate. But his presence does not change. He is avinashi, imperishable. A person who sees this, he really true seer. Otherwise, we see but only the outside world. We miss the main thing. So that is the main message. God is present in all, but not equally. His presence is not equally manifest in all. So the purpose of life is to know God, experience His presence. A little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within M. It is necessary. Is it necessary to practice discipline all through life? Question. Master. No. But one must be up and doing in the beginning. The beginning, one must be active. And he gives an example of the boatman. After that, one need not work hard. The helmsman stands up and clutches the rudder firmly as long as the boat is passing through waves, storms, high wind, or around the curves of a river. But he relaxes after steering through them. As soon as the boat passes the curves and the helmsman feels a favorable wind, he sits comfortably and just touches the rudder. Next, he prepares to unfurl the sail and gets ready for a smoke. In driving also same thing happens. When you're going through very busy traffic roads, many intersection traffic lights, other people, passengers, other cars, then we have to carefully drive slowly. But once we reach the expressway and the not many cars, but distance the car, then you can relax and just you hold the steering wheel. Relax. Same way, a boatman. Next, he prepares to unfurl the sail and gets ready for a smoke. Likewise, the aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of woman and gold. At one stage of life, person is very busy. Education, degree, seeking job, and then professional life, career, family, children, spouse. All these things occupy a person's time and energy. But once a person passes through this stage, children grow up and go away, become independent, then some time, some relaxation to think about God. It becomes easy. Next, he prepares to unfurl his sail and gets ready for a smoke. Likewise, the aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of woman and gold. Enjoyment, phase of enjoyment, no time for anything else. Artha kama. Then after that period is over, then gradually the person's mind turns inward. Some are born with the characteristics of the yogi, but they too should be careful. It is woman and gold alone that is the obstacle. It makes them deviate from the path of yoga and drags them into worldliness. This we carefully understood. The phrase in Indian language Sanskrit is Kamani Kanchana. Literally translated, it means woman and gold. Kanchana means gold. But that should be understood as man's desire for enjoyment, lust, and greed. Greed for money and possessions. Greed for fame, possession, property. Greed, greed can kill. And desire for enjoyment of sensory pleasures. What he means by woman is not woman. There's nothing wrong with women. Later, somebody asks, uh, "Sir, shall we hate women then?" No, Sri Ramakrishna said. This is on page 168, a little later. When this question came up, when Thakur made a similar statement, one asked, "Sir, often you say woman and gold is the obstruction to spiritual life. Then should we hate women then?" That question someone raised. Sri Ramakrishna said, "No. Woman is divine mother herself. One should be worshipped. Why woman should be worshipped? This is in our scriptures in many places. Woman is not an object of enjoyment, pleasure. That's what an ordinary person thinks. That is the mistake. Looking upon woman as an object of enjoyment, pleasure, that is the main mistake. She is divine mother herself. Sri Ramakrishna mentioned many times, he himself looked upon all women as the mother, his mother, regardless of who they were. Once he was a prostitute named Ramani was walking on the street. Sri Ramakrishna saw her and he said, "Oh, Divine Mother, you have chosen to come in this form." Divine Mother herself appears as all beings as women. This is the main message in our scriptures. Sriyas Samasta Sakala Jagatsu. In the Chandi, which many people chant every day, part of which or whole of which, also called Chandi or Durga Saptashati or Divya Mahatmya, different names. There in the 11th chapter, there is a hymn addressed to Divine Mother. In that hymn called Narayani Stuti, three stanzas from that hymn we chant during the evening prayer in our Ramakrishna order centers, Sarvamangala Mangal. In that hymn, shloka number 6, this instruction comes. There says, "Vidya samastas tavadevi vedah sriyas samasta sakala jagatsu tvayekaya puritamamba etat kate stutissabar aparapurukti sakala jagatsu." In the whole world, samasta striya, all women are verily thy manifestations. Tvayekaya, by you alone this whole world is pervaded. So that's how we should look upon women, a divine mother. Swamiji said the same thing in his lectures during his stay in the Thousand Island Park. In the Thousand, he stayed there in upstate New York for about 7 or 8 weeks in the summer of 1895. And one day in his class, this was the topic. He was talking about women. Then he said, every woman is the manifestation of the Divine Mother herself. And he concludes that day, that class, with the instruction, if you want peace and love in your life, worship your mother as the Divine Mother. Who is the mother? Divine Mother herself appearing in human form. That's how we should treat women. Other scriptures say the same thing. Manusmriti say the same thing. But an ordinary person does not think so. Woman is enjoyment like that. They connect that. That is the mistake. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna again and again says. Woman and gold. Attachment to pleasure, seeking pleasure, and greed for wealth should be given up. So, it is woman and gold alone that is the obstacle. That means man's desire for enjoyment, sensory enjoyment, and pleasure, those are the obstacles to spiritual life. It makes them deviate from the path of yoga and drags them into worldliness. Perhaps they have some desire for enjoyment. After fulfilling their desire, they again direct their minds to God and thus recover their former state of mind, fit for the practice of yoga. Have you ever seen the spring trap for fish called the Shatka call? Is one kind of device for catching fish. There's a straight bamboo pole, and it is planted in the ground. One end of it is bent and tied to some trap bait. Is held that way. As soon as the fish catches it, it straightens up and the fish goes up. And the pole straightens up, like releasing a spring. That's the try kind of fish trap that he's describing. If have you ever seen the spring trap for fish called the Satka call? M. No, sir, I have not seen it. Then he describes. They use it in our part of the country. One end of a bamboo pole is fastened in the ground, and the other is bent over with a catch. From this end, a line with a hook hangs over the water, with the bait tied to the hook. When the fish swallows the bait, suddenly the bamboo jumps up and regains its upright position. Similarly, a seeker of God sometimes make a departure, takes a detour from the spiritual path because desire for enjoyment is there. That desire sometimes become very strong, and the person takes a break, and enjoys, fulfills his desire. Then afterwards realizes, no, no, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I should come back to the path of God realization. Comes back to spiritual life, straightens like this bamboo pole. That's what he was saying. Uh, the previous paragraph, it's the woman and gold alone that is the obstacle. It makes them deviate from the path of yoga and drags them into worldliness. Temptation comes. So a person takes a detour. Perhaps they have some desire for enjoyment. After fulfilling their desire, they again direct their minds to God and thus recover their former state of mind. Comes back to the path of yoga, fit for the practice of yoga. So, next paragraph. Again, take a pair of scales. For example, if a weight is placed on one side, the lower needle moves away from the upper one. The lower needle is the mind, and the upper one, God. The meeting of the two is yoga. Scale, old fashioned scale. Nowadays, these digital things are there. It shows, you keep the substance and it shows the numbers, digital screen. Old fashioned scale. Two pans are there. If you put weight in one, or vegetable, whatever the person is selling, the other goes up. Then the needle goes to the downside. So when both are equal, the needle is straight, even position. If a weight is placed on one side, the lower needle moves away from the upper one. The lower needle is the mind, and the upper one, God. The meeting of the two is yoga. Unless the mind becomes steady, there cannot be yoga. It is the wind of worldliness that always disturbs the mind, which may be likened to a candle flame. If that flame does not move at all, then one is said to have attained yoga. This same example comes in the Gita. A person who is able to meditate without distraction, his mind is like the flame. For example, flame of a candle in a windless place. There's no wind, everything is still and calm, the flame is steady, does not move. But if there is a wind or air moving, then the flame is not steady, it flickers from side to side. Likewise, the mind of a person trying to meditate. If there is temptation, distraction, the mind is not steady. One moment it thinks about God, next moment thinks of something else. So constantly struggle to bring it back. But if a person's mind is free from all the desires and temptations, steady, like an unbroken stream of oil The mind constantly thinks about God with very little or no distraction. So that's example Sri Ramakrishna gives. Unless the mind becomes steady, there cannot be yoga. It is the wind of worldliness that always disturbs the mind, which may be likened to a candle flame. If that flame does not move at all, then one is said to have attained yoga. In chapter 6, this same example is given. Yatha depo nivatasto nengate sopamasmrta. Nivatastha means in a place where there is uh, no wind, then mind is like a flame, remains steady and calm. If there are desires for worldly enjoyment, etc., the mind goes here and there. To big struggle to bring it back to the thought of God. Woman and gold alone is the obstacle to yoga. Again, we have to use caution. Always analyze what you see. What is there in the body of a woman? See, Sri Ramakrishna sometimes does not do any sugar coating. Even if truth is unpleasant, he will say it as it is. It looks harsh and unpleasant, but that is the truth. And you have to understand carefully what is meant. So he says, what is there in the body of a woman? Only such things as blood, flesh, fat, and the like. Why should one love? Not only human's body, all bodies have the same thing, made up of same thing. Man's body is the same, animal's body is the same. From the outside, everybody looks attractive and nice, but when you see inside, students of anatomy know this one, all different view. Inside view is very different. Outside, oh, nice and pleasant. And it changes with time. So one should not be deluded by the appearance. So physical attraction for objects of enjoyment, we should be careful. What is in it truly? Like that one. Why should one love such a body? Sometimes I used to assume a rajasic mood in order to practice renunciation. Once I had the desire to put on a gold embroidered robe, wear a ring on my finger, and smoke a hubble bubble with a long pipe. Mathura Babu procured all these things for me. I wore the gold embroidered robe and said to myself, after a while, mind, this is what is called a gold embroidered robe, a shawl with gold embroidery border. This is what is called a gold embroidered robe. Then I took it off and threw it away. I could not stand the robe anymore. Again I said to myself, mind, this is called a shawl, and this a ring, and this smoking a hubble bubble with a long pipe. I threw those things away once for all, and the desire to enjoy them never arose in my mind again. It's not possible for us. If our desire comes, say to eat something, some sweet or drink coffee or something, if you drink it, it desire will not go away. It will come back again. So once he saw the value of a thing, then understood this is not source of happiness. All these external things like shawl and property, possessions, jewelry, dress and car, and all these things, people seek happiness in these things. They don't have the power. There is no intrinsic happiness in sense objects. Whatever happiness that seems to come from them, really from these are the sense objects from whom we seek to find happiness. They are merely they provide very highly distorted, dim reflection of the joy of the self coming here. It's here that all happiness is there, infinite ananda is there. So without knowing, we reach out for the flashing reflections, seeking happiness there. No, they can't provide. They seem to sometimes, but that's not the real source of happiness. So true happiness, eternal, infinite bliss is within everyone. It's in everyone. That's where we have to look for it. Looking for happiness in the outside world, in the objects of enjoyment, wealth, etc., is unwise thing to do. I gave this example once before. It was about 6:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, twilight, and street lights had come on. And one man was searching for something under the patch of light, under the street lamp in front of his house, looking for something. Then the neighbor asked him, "What are you searching for?" Then man says, "I'm looking for my wedding ring." The neighbor says, "Where did you keep it?" The man says, "When I was going to take bath this morning, I took it out and kept it on the dresser in my bedroom. Afterwards, when I came back, I would not find it. So I'm looking for it." The neighbor says, "If you put it on the dresser in the bedroom, why are you looking for it here in the street in front of your house? You should look in the bedroom. It may have fallen from between the dresser and the wall or somewhere. You're looking here. Why not search there, inside?" The man says, "There's more light here. It's easy to search, look for things here. Inside it is." That is exactly same mistake we are doing. We're looking for happiness. And we are looking in the place where it cannot be found outside in the world. Because there is light in there, everything flashing, attractive. That's where you look for happiness. Sages are saying that that's not where you find happiness. It's inside you, within you. Look for it there, you will find it. No matter how hard you search, for how long, in the outside world, you won't get true happiness. That's the message of. And all this is nicely explained in succinctly in one verse in the Gita. We're looking for happiness in the wrong place. Looking for happiness is not the bad thing, it's the right thing to do. We all want to be happy. But most people look for it in the wrong way, in the wrong place. Can never find. Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, all of this is in 2 lines, he very succinctly says this one. Chapter 5, Shloka 22. There he says, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya natesha ramate buddha. An ordinary person looks for happiness in sense objects. Money, property, pleasure, family, relationships, children, grandchildren, fame, etc. Nothing can be found there. Futile. Search. Instead, one should look for happiness within where it really can be found, where it is present. All these sense objects of enjoyment, samsparshaja bhoga, happiness coming from sense objects, dukkha yoni, eventually they result only in unhappiness, disillusionment, unable to enjoy more, body becomes old, sense objects are there, but sense organs lose their acuity to enjoy. Food is there, cannot eat. Just it's not the wise way to look for happiness. Because these sense objects cannot give lasting happiness. Adyantam, they come here, then they go. They have a beginning and an end. Everything has a beginning and an end. All the things in which you look for happiness, they come at some time in our life. We didn't bring anything with us. Nothing goes with us. And they end. It's not where to find happiness. Nateshwaramate Buddha, a wise person. Buddha means a buddhiman, a wise person. Wisdom. Such a person does not take any delight in such things. He looks for happiness inside and he finds it. That is the message. Where were we? He sees. Though not there. Next page here. The meeting of the two. Unless the mind becomes steady, there cannot be yoga. Then he gives the example. I had desire to wear a ring, gold embroidered robe, all that we read. This is what is called. I threw those things away once for all, and the desire to enjoy them never arose in my mind again. So, enjoy the happiness for some time, but along with that, reflection has to be done. Then we know, no, this is not the right place to look for happiness. That's when the scriptures and the teachers' instructions come into play in our lives. So that is that. The conversation continues. It was almost dusk. The master and M stood talking alone near the door on the southeast veranda. Then we'll stop here and say the concluding prayer. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampavitam Vai Ishavataram Parameshamedhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Om, we bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotee, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. Adi Bhautika Shanti. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all. And we have the Labor Day weekend retreat coming, September 4 and 5, 2 days program. Pravrajika Krishna Prana is coming from Santa Barbara, and Swami Brahmarupananda is coming from Hollywood. There will be 2 days program beginning at 11 o'clock. All of you are invited to attend. You can find the details in our website, vedantadc.org. Thank you all and stay well.